Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The first time you and I talked was during your early days when you did friend feed.
I think you and I are the only two people who remember what friend feed is, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. And my mom, maybe, I don't know.
Any friend feed? Ina? Anybody
Two,
else?
three.
Okay, there's about
They're probably
4 or
lying.
5. Jeez, you guys missed the good times on the internet. But that's not what we're here. I could talk about that all day, but that's not what we're here for. You got introduced as the former co-CEO of Salesforce. I want to start there. We could start way earlier, but you built FriendFeed, sold it to Facebook, became CTO there, built Quip, went to Salesforce, sold it to Salesforce, became co-CEO there. Now you're doing Sierra. But let's talk about leaving Salesforce. Why did you leave?
A lot of these things are personal, some of them are intellectual, some of them are professional. So there's a lot of different factors that came into it. I think part of me just felt really an inclination to go back to being an entrepreneur. As you sort of alluded to, I've been a part of larger firms, I've started companies in the past. And in particular, right now, with this sort of current wave of AI, there's this Steve Jobs quote. It might be misattributed to him, but it's more fun to be a pirate than it is to be in the Navy. And I think in these waves of technology, there's something to be said to having a first principles view and the agility of being a startup. If you look at a lot of companies are reporting earnings today and tomorrow, and some of them are the most valuable companies in the world. Many of them were started during a wave of technology disruption. So Amazon and Google and Salesforce all started because of the birth of the browser and the internet.
Sure.
You look at Uber and DoorDash and Instacart and WhatsApp all started during the wave of mobility inspired by the iPhone. And I think that right now, it's very hard to tell in this moment which companies in this audience will be generational companies, but I think there will be. And I think it's because when there's a technology wave as meaningful as large language models and sort of the associated impacts, it kind of shuffles the cards of the tech industry a bit. Your advantages become disadvantages. The benefits of being an incumbent start to become obstacles. Maybe your business model isn't compatible with the new technology. Maybe you have to, it disrupts the buyer of your technology. Maybe it changes the way you should package your technology. And so it's a fun time to be an entrepreneur, but a lot of it was personal. It just felt like the right time in my life.
Let me take that back to one step. If you'd become the sole CEO of Salesforce, would you still have felt the same way?
I think Salesforce is amazing, and Mark Benioff is one of the closest mentors, closest thing I've had to a father figure in business, and I love that place. So if I were there, I'd be all in there, right? And I'm the type of person that, I do one thing and I do it well. So if I were there, I'd be doing it with my full heart, and I still root for the company. I think a lot of you, I don't know if you've had sort of those companies that are formative to your career, you never really leave, so I feel like I'm always going to be a part of that place.
So you're still part of the Ohana?
Absolutely, 100%.
Right. Do you feel the same way about Facebook?
I do, actually. I am very grateful for my experiences. I've had 3 bosses. Marissa Mayer, Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Benioff. And other than that, I've been my own boss. And I feel very grateful to have learned from them. They're very different people, and Google and Facebook and Salesforce are very different companies. And I look back and I just don't think I'd be the person that I am without all of them. And so I do feel like an emotional attachment to all 3. And you end up in different stages of your life with different priorities, but I look back on them and they're a part of me and I'm a part of them, and I'm very grateful for it.
Now, there's very few startup founders who do well when they get acquired. Like, you've done pretty decent for yourself by becoming CTO, co-CEO. That's unusual. What is it about you that allows you to succeed? It sounds like I'm fawning, but what allows you to succeed in both of those positions?
So I credit a lot of my success, particularly at larger firms, to advice I got from Sheryl Sandberg early in my career. I'm probably embellishing this story a bit through the lens of memory, but it's broadly right. So I had just become chief technology officer of Facebook and was managing a team larger than any team I had managed before. And she gave me some really critical feedback. She was the type of colleague that tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I can't remember exactly the circumstance. She sort of pulled me aside and was just like, "You're handling the situation completely wrong." And it really shook me because it was very candid feedback, and I'm classic overachiever, so I'm like, you go through the stages of despair, and I realized that in that time I had a conception of myself, which was as a technologist and a product thinker, and I was trying to conform the new job that I was in to my conception of myself. So I was trying to have my team and their teams and the entire organization sort of conform to my self-conception. And when I was realizing the feedback that Sheryl gave me was basically essentially boiled down to you should expect more of your leaders and stop trying to do all the work yourself. That was kind of the contours of the advice. I realized that I needed to sort of change my perception of my own identity to be a better leader. And instead of having a conception of who I am and what I'm good at, I would wake up every day and saying, what's the highest impact thing that I can do today to just make Facebook a more successful place. And some days it would be technology, some days it would be around people and recruiting, some days it would be around our customers. But I started with just what is actually impactful. And then the counterintuitive side effect was I really appreciated the impact. So I was actually happy. So it turns out my conception of myself was actually not even correct. And I realized that having a more flexible sense of my own identity led to me having greater impact. And so by the time I'd gotten to Salesforce, I had sort of gone through that thanks to Sheryl. And I showed up every day and I said, what can I do that will have an impact here? I was very grateful to have been acquired by Salesforce, very grateful to Mark for taking a bet on me. And I just said yes to anything he asked. And sometimes
anything he asked?
You could probably, and I actually think I give this advice to a lot of people, particularly in the middle of their careers, is you can become very wedded to a sense of your own identity and lose opportunities. And I think especially for entrepreneurs in the room, as you go through different stages of your company. When you start, you just need to build something people want. I really agree with that philosophy. At some point, you really have to build a company, and who you are as a CEO in that transition changes. And if you are too wedded to a perception of who you are, you won't actually make that transition.
And yet, after you left Salesforce, you didn't become CEO of, ServiceNow or something. You went back to founding a company. What still drives you at this point?
I would not have started a company if not for my authentic excitement about this current wave of artificial intelligence. I think it's one of those things a little bit like the dot-com bubble, where there are elements of it that are almost comically overhyped and clearly false. And then there
for example?
I think there's a lot of demos out there that are purely snake oil, and we all see them every day on social media. But I think if you take a big picture where we've made things that were previously impossible almost comically easy, like taking almost any amount of text and summarizing it and synthesizing it on behalf of all of us, to be able to actually have a conversation with software for the first time. I don't know if any of you saw Curb Your Enthusiasm this year when he's yelling at his phone, trying to get directions. That was not historical. That was this season, right? And now we've gotten to the point where you have a computer that can understand nuance and sarcasm in multiple languages and be instantly responsive. And then furthermore, I think we've reached the point where, especially with frontier models, AI can do some basic reasoning as well. And you combine all of those things, and I think it really transforms the way that we think about software. And so, my company, Sierra, we help companies build conversational AI that can directly engage with their customers. So if you're fixing your Sonos speaker, or you have ADT security at your house, or if you have SiriusXM in your car and you have a problem, you'll now chat with an AI agent powered by our platform. And that's not science fiction. That's something that's actually possible right now, and no one likes to wait on hold, right? If you ever in a problem, you want to get it fixed right now. And I think these are the types of technologies that I think change the way we engage with computers. And we were talking about this backstage, about these aha moments we have with new waves of technology. For me, it was DALL-E. I remember when that came out. I was in the summer, I remember. And it was that post with the avocado chair. Do you all remember that? And I just had this moment of like, computers can do that? I didn't have a mental model for it. And in particular, for me, it defied the box that I had put software in as really fast rules engines towards something that could actually be a conduit of creativity. And in that moment, I love things that challenge my own conception of reality. And I was realizing that this is like a new phase of computation that I hadn't fully internalized myself, and it really changed me. And so what drives me is not only having an impact on the world, but also I don't like to sit on the sidelines when a new technology comes out. I think it was an Alan Kay quote, the easiest way to predict the future is to invent it, and I want to play a part in inventing it.
And talking about that, you're on the board of OpenAI now.
I am? Oh, yeah.
Backstage, you introduced yourself. Yeah, I work for Sierra and OpenAI, which I thought was interesting. But, you joined the board during a difficult time, just when Sam Altman was ousted by the board, like late November last year. What made you decide to step in at that point and join the board with all this mess going on there?
Yeah, that was another very personal decision. So I wasn't sure if I was going to engage in much board work to focus on Sierra. And that weekend after Sam had been fired by the board, there are a variety of details I won't go into, but I ended up
Go for it.
I know, you'd love it. I ended up getting called by both the board and Sam, expressing that I could help potentially sort of mediate the situation.
Was Sam asking you to help him stay as honest CEO?
It was more nuanced than that, actually. I think I wasn't in all those discussions, but I think they mutually came to the conclusion that I could help them both navigate the complex situation that the organization was in at that point. And I spent a lot of time reflecting on the amount of time it would certainly take to help. And I realized I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if not for OpenAI. I think many of you in the room are probably in the same boat. Success has 1,000 fathers, and certainly all the technologies that have led to large language models, there's contributions from a large number of organizations. But ChatGPT was the moment that I think changed the consciousness of the world around AI. And I realized that this organization, which had such a meaningful kind of part of my story and why I was doing what I was doing, was potentially about to disintegrate. And I was in a oddly unique position to be able to help. And I decided, if you're going to look back on your life and say, how did I spend my time, I wasn't going to regret helping save an organization that I cared deeply about.
So if you look back now, do you think OpenAI would have disintegrated?
I have no idea. In those moments, you just know where you can have an impact, and it was a very complex situation. A lot of employees had written a letter saying that they would leave, and I don't know. You can't A/B test your life decisions. That's one of the hard parts about life. So you have to, make decisions with the information you have, and I certainly don't regret making that decision. And it's been really fun to see all the amazing new technologies come out of that organization. It's been really fun to build, I think, an exceptional board for the organization as well. So I'm grateful to be a part of the mission.
Well, the board is quite different now. The makeup is quite different now. And has that changed anything inside how has the company changed inside?
I honestly couldn't tell you because I only know when I started. So I don't know the OpenAI before. I do think that, we're at TechCrunch Disrupt. I always think of this conference about startups and the opportunity of creating things from scratch. And in many ways, you can think of OpenAI has a lot of definitions. It's a mission-driven nonprofit. It's a research lab. It's one of the fastest-growing startups of all time. It's probably all of those things. And as a consequence, if any of you have ever been a part of a startup that's growing incredibly fast, it's constantly changing. And one of the hard parts for individuals at a company like that is the company around you can sometimes change faster than you change. That's one of the greatest opportunities. And I think it's why there's so many people who write about sort of the hyper-growth stage of startups. It's incredibly challenging. And so you have the hard and I would say intellectually compelling parts of OpenAI, which is its mission, which is to ensure artificial general intelligence benefits humanity. You have the research, which is incredibly challenging unto itself, just intellectually. And then you have all the challenging problems of growing one of the fastest growing companies of all time. And so it's a complicated place. And as I said, just grateful to be a part of it because I think the mission has never been more important.
Maybe last question about OpenAI, but you mentioned it's a complex place in part because you've got this non-profit and for-profit kind of setup right now. Rumor has it that might change over time. Anything like, turning OpenAI into just a for-profit?
I can't comment on that, but I will frame the way I think the organization thinks about it, which is it all starts with the mission. So if, as a nonprofit and as a board member of the nonprofit, my duty is to the mission, which is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. And I think when OpenAI was founded, it wasn't necessarily obvious the amount of compute and capital expenditures would be required to build artificial general intelligence as it is now. And so I think constantly we're thinking about as a board, what is the right way for this organization to pursue that mission? And that's the lens through which we view everything. And I think there's multiple ways to do it, and we're always evaluating it.
Sure. Well, let's talk Sierra. Just yesterday, you announced a $175 million funding round, 4.5 billion valuation. Could have waited until today to announce that, but that's a different question. Why is Sierra worth that much?
I think Sierra is having an impact because we're driving real value for customers right now. I mentioned already what Sierra does, but I'll make it really concrete with some examples. We help primarily consumer brands, but companies with large numbers of customers deploy AI agents that can directly engage with those customers. So maybe you're helping someone consider a purchase. Maybe you're helping someone with technical support. If you know Casper mattresses or Chubby shorts, if you need to execute a return or a delivery, you can now chat with AI to do it. We are really pursuing some of the largest, most complex enterprises, companies that have legacy systems, companies that have millions of customers who shouldn't have to wait on the sidelines to take advantage of this amazing new technology. One of our customers is ADT, the security company. The T in ADT stands for telegraph. They started as a company doing home security via telegraph, and I think the symbolism of our working with them on their first AI agent is not lost on me. And I think that the traction that we've got to actually not make demonstrations, but really drive real results for complex customers is unique right now in the market. And I think if you go back to my premise about this wave of technology disruption that we're in right now, we still have to earn our success, and we haven't yet. But we've seen a lot of success with our existing customers, and I think we have the potential to really transform the way enterprise companies deploy AI to their customers.
How many customers do you have right now?
We're not disclosing that right now.
It's a ballpark number.
We're also not disclosing that, actually.
I have to try. It's in my contract. Is the mission of Sierra to build, you hate the word chatbot, but is it to build a better chatbot?
You really tried to needle me here, aren't you? So look, if you
it's
all...
also in my contract.
If I were to survey the audience here, and I can't see anyone, so don't bother raising your hand because these lights are shining in my eyes, but if I were to say, like, how many of you like chatbots, I'm guessing none of you would raise your hand. Because when you hear the word chatbot, you associate it with those robotic pieces of you-know-what that you just want to talk to a real person. And it's partly because they were created more than a couple years ago, and they truly have no idea what you're saying, and their capabilities are extremely limited. On the other hand, if I asked how many of you like ChatGPT, my guess is almost 100% of you would raise your hand because it's delightful and it's become a part of our day-to-day lives. So it's very interesting. If you ask someone not a technologist, what's the difference between a chatbot and ChatGPT, what's interesting is intuitively you know they're very, very different. But it's probably hard to define precisely what those are. Fundamentally, it comes down to it actually works. It actually understands what I'm saying. It actually does what it says it's going to do. So the reason why we don't like the word chatbots is I think consumers associate it with the technology from a few years ago that actually was a piece of friction in the customer experience. And in contrast, I think consumers seek out AI. It's why ChatGPT was the fastest growing consumer service of all time. We truly believe that in 4 or 5 years, most of our digital interactions will be conversational. Put simply, I think for most companies, you'll put as much care and attention into building your AI agent as you do your website or your mobile app. Think about adding your 15-year-old or 16-year-old child to your car insurance. Will you be chatting with the State Farm AI, or will you be tapping around the mobile app? Think about maybe opening a checking account and having to figure out what your login information was and navigating your bank's website versus just calling up on the phone and having a conversation with AI. The thing that I'm most excited about is in the world of customer service, there's this concept of cost per contact, which is essentially the all-in cost when someone actually has a conversation with you. Most of it is the wages of the person answering the phone, but for a phone call, it's between, call it $10 and $20 to have a phone call. That's really expensive. So for some things, it's really easy to have a phone call with a company because it turns out that interaction's worth more than $10. For other things, there's entire websites devoted to finding brands' phone numbers because it's so hard to do. And it's not because companies don't want to talk to us, it's because they can't afford to. They literally can't afford to have those conversations. With AI, we're bringing down the price of a conversation by 1 or even 2 orders of magnitude. What's exciting about that is there's sort of first and second order effects of technology. How many conversations will we be able to have with our customers when it's no longer cost prohibitive? And I think that's quite exciting. When you think about the sort of legacy concept of self-service, it tends to be buttons and forms and things like that the burden is on us. If the cost of having a conversation is just as inexpensive of that, why not offer a phone call? Why not have push to talk? And I think that's what we're really excited about. So we would like to, right now, help every company in the world transform their customer service experience with conversational AI. But long term, we would like every company to be able to build that branded AI agent that really represents the entirety of their customer experience in a way that I think can manifest itself over AirPods, smart speakers, WhatsApp, whatever the channel is. And I think that's incredibly exciting.
I was thinking about that, but what is your mode? Because a lot of companies are trying to do something similar, right? Are you building your own models? What's on the technology side? Where can you defend yourself against the competition here?
Happy to talk more about the technology, but let me describe the way I see the AI market. I believe the AI market will play out somewhat like the cloud market played out. There will be providers of infrastructure, like in the cloud era, that was Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud. And I think the analogous technology and AI are the foundation and frontier models. So essentially, you really need to be in a position to have a huge amount of CapEx to invest in that infrastructure for both training and inference. And I think scale begets scale, just like it does in building data centers. Similarly, I think there will be lots of tools. If you want to move to the cloud, what tools do you need? Snowflake, Databricks, et cetera. In the world of AI, there's companies like Scale that provide a lot of tools and services around it. And many of those existing tool makers are moving to AI as well. And then there will be a number of companies that provide out-of-the-box solutions. So in the world of the cloud, it was everyone from Salesforce to Shopify, ServiceNow, Adobe, that were targeting, that just made things out of the box, that ran in the cloud. You didn't need to know where they were hosted or what database they used. They just worked, and they solved the problem. I see the same playing out in AI, and just like we at Sierra are providing an out-of-the-box solution for customer experience, there's companies like Cursor doing it for software development, there's companies like Harvey doing it for the law, and there's a number of companies here doing the same thing. I see that playing out in a similar way because I think most companies don't want to buy technology. Most companies want to buy solutions to their problems. I think thanks to the emergence of software as a service, companies have actually been able to see and feel the total cost of ownership of developing their own software, and it vastly exceeds that of software as a service. Software is like a lawn. You have to tend to it. So any software you write internally is going to grow stagnant, right? And someone's got to maintain it, and the scarcest resource at our companies is software developers, let alone AI software developers. So I'm actually really excited. I mean, sort of walking around here, I really like the companies focusing on building solutions because I do think that despite AI being a completely mind-blowing new technology, I still think that companies want to buy solutions to their problems that happen to be facilitated by AI. Sure. They don't want to buy AI. So to go back to your question about the moat, I think the moats in this industry will be very similar to software as a service, which is, better products, better packaging, better go-to-market execution, better technology, and you really need all three to continue. And because we're in a really intensely competitive market, because everyone is excited about AI, just like the dot-com bubble, there was Alta Vista and Google, and there was Buy.com and Amazon, and you want to be one of those and not the other. And so, that's just the free market, and we will, build both our moat and our business by focusing on one thing, which is driving success for our customers.
Still a big fan of Yahoo Search. So, yeah. Final question before they play us off the stage here. You sold FriendFeed to Facebook, Quip to Salesforce, Sierra to?
Sierra will remain an independent company.
All right, you said it here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.